Hey everyone, welcome to He's Not Wrong, and I'm your host Chad D. And you find me yet again pissed off. Let me explain why. As all of you know, I live in an apartment. I live on the first floor, and below my windows, there is a common area, a courtyard, if you will. And there are a group of girls that actively make the decision to sit directly under my window, and they sit there and they roll little things and they smoke a certain substance, and the seal on my windows, it's poor as can be, and that smoke comes into my apartment. The glass is thin, so what do? They're screaming, they're laughing really loud. It's annoying. I lose sleep, I lose focus, I lose concentration, so I'm angry. I ended up calling my apartment complex this week to no avail, and they obviously sent me to voicemail. I texted them. I said that they need to address and rectify the situation ASAP, or I'm calling the cops. And I hate to be that person, but I spend X amount of dollars a month to live in this, well, piece of crap, honestly. But that's besides the point. I spend so much money to live here. Therefore, I want to live in peace. I want my space, the air I breathe, my ears, I want it to all be respected. So I tell that story not only because it has been my daily existence for the past couple of weeks, but what I'm not wrong about is the stance that I'm taking, that it needs to stop, that it needs to be addressed, it needs to be rectified, or I will be calling the police and I will be lawyering up to get out of my lease at this apartment, and we can be moving elsewhere. So that I just wanted to fill everyone in the event that those girls above are listening to this episode. So for this episode, I purposefully decided that I wanted to record it after April 1st, for a whole slew of reasons, but the main reason being that was the date. If you remember my Gabe Alamont interview, April 1st was the special elections that were held in Florida. And I wanted to record this episode so we can digest the results, whatever they may be, whether it's Gay winning or Gay losing. And in this event, it was Gabe Alamont losing the congressional special election for Florida's first congressional district. On April 1st, he lost. And it sucks and it's painful. And I feel awful for the people in Florida's first congressional district for a number of reasons. The main one being they really had the opportunity, they had the ability to have someone who actually cares about them and cares about their community and cares about their district, who is qualified and talented and smart and cares, serve them in the United States Congress. And it's another time in our history where, like, what the best thing that could happen just doesn't happen, and it sucks. So one thing that I want the takeaway to be from the loss on April 1st for the Democratic Party is one thing. And I spent a lot of time thinking about what the lessons with this loss, what those lessons are. I really wanted to focus on just the most important one. And right now we are focusing a lot of our attention not on the end goal, but we're focusing our attention on what the election looks like based on social media conversation. So if there's one thing that we should have learned in 2016 and we didn't, that we should have learned again in 2018 when we thought a blue wave was going to happen, we should have learned in 2024 when Kamala Harris didn't win, and we should have been prepared for the special election on April 1st, but we weren't, because we get so hopeful and so excited based on how a campaign looks on social media. We think because someone has the best graphics, they have the most money behind digital ads, digital campaigns, they have the fun music, the flashy graphics, the most taunting, daunting, and spicy social media. We think that we can base how an election is going to turn out on those things, and we can't. And we have to stop focusing on that. The amount of influencers that I saw getting on TikTok making videos about how Republicans are scared and the turnout is going to be amazing, and so and so has the best chance ever because of XYZ. It's just we can't be doing that anymore. Republicans weren't scared. Republicans didn't have to care. Unfortunately, that's what it comes down to. In elections where Republicans know that they have a seat, they don't spend months leading up to an election spending money. They spend money in the last few weeks always because they want their name to be the last thing on people's minds to push them to go to the polls. They don't have to work months in advance on a campaign. So the whole notion that, oh, the Republicans are scared, so that's why they're getting involved in the end, that's not true. That whole conversation, that narrative, it needs to stop. So instead of basing how we think an election is going to turn out on social media presence, we need to be focused on what people are saying on the ground. We need to be focused on how many people are we making contact with every single day and what are they saying. Those are the things that we should be focused on, not how a campaign is doing on social media. I'm tired of it. I learned it the hard way in 2018. If someone was going to win an election based on social media presence, it would have been Mallory Hagan. And then again, if someone was going to win that presidential election based on social media presence, Kamala would be sitting in the White House right now, and we would not be having all the issues that we're having right now with our economy. So I say that because we all need to be careful with what we say and how we share a message and how we analyze what's going on. Okay, so let's just start level setting there. The next thing that I want to segue into is how I grapple with, and I know I'm not the only person that is dealing and grappling with this, but grappling with giving people grace when you know that they're not voting for your best interest and the best interest of the people around them. So let me give a little context. I was having a conversation today with someone about how you need to be kind to people and you need to be accepting of them. Just because they don't vote how you would want them to vote doesn't mean they don't care about you or that they don't have your best interest at heart. So I sat back and I thought about it, and then I had to make the point that no, exactly with what you're saying in this conversation and this argument is exactly why I don't want to have a relationship with said person, because they aren't voting with my best interest. Because if you're being kind to my face, but you're voting against my best interest behind my back, you don't really care about me, right? So that's one thing that I'm really working hard on trying to make people understand is that when you go in the voting booth, if you're my family, if you're my cousin, if you're my aunt or uncle, and you say that you love me to my face, but you're going in that voting booth and you're voting for someone who is actively working on taking away my rights, making sure that I can't get married in the future, making sure that I won't have the ability to adopt kids, that if my spouse, for some ungodly reason, finds himself, or future spouse, I should say, finds himself in the hospital, that I wouldn't be the person who could make the decisions on their behalf if they were incapacitated. Does that mean beheaded? That just means like not present, right? Okay, so I used the right word. So if you're voting for someone who supports all those things, you truly don't care about the people that you're saying you love to their face. So I'm working on it. I'm working on trying to give people the grace that's needed in order to get where we need people to be in our society. But I think there are some situations, especially with people in my life, where I don't want to say they're a lost cause. I don't believe anyone is a lost cause, but there is a need for a separation in relationships because that relationship is not serving my best interest, my safety, my health, and my well-being. So just think about that next time you go to the voting booth. Okay. That's all I need y'all to do. I just need you to think about someone other than yourself when you're casting your ballot. How is this ballot going to impact people other than myself? We need to stop being single issue voters and we need to stop being self-centered voters and start thinking about the people around us. So I want to segue now into talking about a conversation that I overheard this week in a coffee shop. And I have to say, I'm the first one to crap on my hometown of Montgomery, Alabama. It does not have a lot going for it, let me tell you. I can say that because I'm from there. I lived there for over 20 years. I've earned the right. But what I have issue with is being in a different city and hearing someone talk poorly about my hometown. I can speak on it because I've earned that right. You can. Why are you talking badly about Montgomery? So let me tell you what I overheard. The girl was sitting with who I'm assuming was her partner, her boyfriend, her husband. And they were talking about upcoming travel and how one of the flight options that they were looking at had her leaving out of Montgomery. There were expletives, there was a little bit of cursing. There was no way on God's green earth that this girl was going to start her trip by flying out of Montgomery. I have an issue with this, like I said, because what has that girl done to earn the right to talk poorly about Montgomery in such a nasty manner? But not only that, but her justification was someone died at the Montgomery airport. And let me give you a little context about what she's talking about. A few years ago, there was someone who was, it was an airport worker. They had a family. And so I want to talk lightly and kindly about this person because it is a sensitive subject, I'm sure, for them back in Montgomery. But there was an airport worker who got sucked into the engine of the plane because they got too close to it and the suction was strong enough, and ultimately they died. And this girl had an issue with that. She was like, these workers, Montgomery, they're stupid. Like, there's people dying at the airport because they don't know what they're doing. And that could not be further from the truth. And her reasoning and her stance couldn't be further from the truth, because flying out of Montgomery is one of the most wonderful experiences that you can have. You can show up to the airport when your flight is boarding and still make it onto the plane on time. I've never gone through the security at the Montgomery Regional Airport, and there have been any other person in that security line other than myself. The commute from walking through the front doors of that airport to your gate is about 45 seconds. Nowhere else, I'm sure, unless it was a super small town in middle of America, nowhere else do you have that kind of experience at an airport. They fly directly to DC, to Dallas, to Atlanta. I mean, it's great. If you don't want to sit through the security line at the Atlanta airport, fly out of Montgomery. Bypass the security. It's great. It's worth the money. So I don't know what this girl's issue was, but I took great issue with the complaining that she was doing about Montgomery because, number one, she was ill-informed. She was wrong. And flying out of Montgomery is a great experience. So that's how I feel about that. Speaking of Montgomery, this Sunday, White Lotus season finale. Montgomery hometown sweetheart, Sarah Catherine Hook, aka Piper, as we all know, is on the White Lotus this season. And I have a feeling that the dad is going to be killing all of his family members. So this is just me wanting to state for the record that I need to make sure that Sarah Catherine Hook does not die in this episode. I will be devastated. I would not be shocked if that entire family dies by actions of the dad in this episode. I have no clue what's to be expected, but we will see how this turns out. For the past few episodes, we have been so lucky to have guests on my podcast. These guests were phenomenal, and by virtue of their presence on this podcast, I asked them the question, what are you not wrong about? And because of that, I have not been doing listener submitted, what are you not wrong about, audio messages. So since this is a solo episode today, I decided, you know what, it's time for a listener submitted, what are you not wrong about? This one comes to us from Reagan in Jacksonville, Florida.
Okay, so this happened to me today, and I am not wrong. It was noon, 12 o'clock p.m., and I was playing music on my boyfriend's big, beautiful, fancy speaker, which has great sound quality, while working from home because I am a big fan of listening to music. I'm a music lover. I love music. If I can have music on, I probably will. And I'm not wrong about that. So, my boyfriend is like doing this crazy emergency management project. And let me back it up to a few days ago. I was also working from home and playing music, and it was 3 o'clock p.m. And this gal comes and knocks on the door, and she's like, "Your music is really loud. Can you turn it down? I'm trying to sleep." Again, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I checked the volume, and it is 3 notches up from mute. So I turned the music off, whatever, and today the apartment complex called my boyfriend at his important emergency management job. He's literally in charge of making sure everything is safe and running smoothly. And they called him and said that someone reported me for playing music too loud, but it was noon. I'm not wrong. It's not like it was midnight. And I think her ears are too sensitive and she is causing trouble. And I don't think I'm wrong.
Okay, Reagan, listen, I'm going to have to straddle this one very lightly. Okay, there's a line because I recognize in this scenario, from what I said earlier on in this episode about the girl sitting underneath my window, enjoying themselves a little too much with their substances and being a little too loud in the common area underneath my window. I do recognize that from that story to this one, I would be the one complaining about the music being up 3 notches from mute. So I completely understand her complaint, but I have to say, I'm definitely on your side because the whole moral of the story is if you're sitting in your apartment, you should be able to enjoy yourself. And that's what you were doing. So you're right. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Thank you for that submission. I need to be careful with what I say next because I don't want to incriminate myself on the investigation that I have going on in my apartment complex and the girls outside my window. I don't want them to be able to use this episode against me in any form or fashion. So I'm just going to say I support you. You're not wrong. And I appreciate very much the submission. Thank you, Reagan from Jacksonville, Florida. And with all that being said, I know this week's episode was a little shorter than I was anticipating, but we had to cover a lot of important topics in a very short amount of time. We have some very exciting episodes and fun guests coming up that we're currently preparing for. So please be on the lookout for that. If you have anything that you are not wrong about, any hills that you are willing to die on because you know you are that right, please be sure to send them to me. He's Not Wrong Podcast on Instagram. You can find me on TikTok. All the links are down in the description. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. Give us that thumbs up. Leave us a comment. Leave us some ratings on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Make sure you subscribe so you can be notified anytime a new episode drops. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. And we're going to see you next Sunday.